Hello and welcome to your first tutorial in C Sharp, and I'm really glad that you're here because, well, you want to learn a new programming language, so that's going to be awesome. We're gonna learn C Sharp here. Okay, so just say ahead of time, this will be the only video that I will be doing full screen, in case you're wondering, because that's it's hard to read things when you have like a small text editor on a full screen. But I just have it for this one video, so you can see where I'm going with things, literally with my mouse and everything. And also, in case this is your first programming language, because VB.NET, Visual Basic, and C Sharp.NET are both Microsoft.NET languages and really good languages to learn first before going into more deeper languages, such as Java or C++, especially C Sharp.NET, because that has C-based syntax, which basically means the code will look very similar to that of Java and C++, because they both have C-based syntax as well. But basically, my Visual Basic.NET playlist and my C Sharp.NET playlist will be pretty much interchangeable. They're going to pretty much be the very same thing, very same topics in both. They're going to be aligned perfectly, or at least that's what I'm going to try doing, because these two .NET languages are very, very similar, and they pretty much do the very same things. So I just wanted to say that as well. So if you'd like to learn Visual Basic next, or if you already know it, whether it was in a college course, or on your own, or in my playlist, you're going to hear a lot of the same things here. Same thing if you watch this, then go to my VB.NET. I'll be repeating a lot of the same things because they're both introductory courses. And in all of my video series, I always start out assuming that you do not know how to program. That's a very important thing. So I do take things slowly, yet I also take things quickly too. But it'll be fair. I think it'll work out. So anyways, on my website, programminghelp.org, you'll see in the tools section on the C Sharp subpage, or in the description of my of this video if you're watching it on YouTube, which I'd probably prefer at this point because my website's kind of messy looking right now. I haven't really worked on how it looks. But anyways, the Express Edition is still Microsoft. It's still from Microsoft. You'll see the link. It's from Microsoft's website. It's basically a free version of Visual Studio for that specific language. And I know for sure that they have one for C++, C Sharp, and Visual Basic. So I have the full copy of Visual Studio 2010. I don't know what the Express Editions look like. I've never used them. But I'd imagine it would look very, very pretty much the same. So let's double click this and let's get started. So as you can see here, this is the main page. This is just what's new in 2010. Excuse me. But it's really no difference between 2010 and 2008, just in case you're curious. Really not. So these are recent projects. This is the one that was, this one doesn't even exist anymore. I actually deleted that, which I'll be recreating in just a moment. So this is the one that I used for Visual Basic, in case you're wondering. That's why it says VB really tiny there. But these are your recent projects, solutions, and whatnot. You can, if it's not here, you can just open it this way, or create a new one. So for C Sharp, click Other Languages, go to Visual C Sharp. You can just click C Sharp, it doesn't really matter. And we'll be using Windows Form applications. Now if you're in a college course, I read a lot of the curriculum at different schools just to make sure my material pretty much matches up with everything else. But I have not seen a class that requires to start with console applications, but in case they do, you can still learn all the same core programming techniques. Well, they're not techniques, it's the methodology that we'll be using in almost any programming language. They're all pretty much the same. If statements, loops, functions, classes. But we'll be taking it a step further by using Windows Form applications. But don't let that intimidate you. It's not hard. So I'll call it example. So now I'm going to be recreating that project I deleted. I already had it deleted, but it was still listed there. So that's the name of our solution. And here we go. So what this is basically a preview of your application, what it'll look like. When you click this, as you can see here under this properties, you can now see all the properties for Form 1. So it looks really overwhelming, but a lot of this stuff is very simple. So the name here is not what appears right here. The name is how the compiler is going to be referring to the object or whatever control we'll be dealing with. Later further down the series when we start creating labels, which we'll probably be doing in the very next episode or tutorial. So this is how it reads. We'll be learning more about shorthands. Like for forms, we might just call it form 1, like that. But we probably won't actually need to do that until we create multiple forms, which we won't be doing for a while anyways. The actual text that appears here is right here, so I'll just get rid of the 1, and now it just says form. And a lot of these other things are, you read through these, fonts, colors, background, borders. It's all very obvious stuff. You'll read these and you'll be like, oh, this isn't complicated at all. And they give you a little, depending on what you have highlighted, they'll give you a little description of what it does. And that's all. In order to see the properties of other controls, like when you get a label, click, and then drag, you don't need to be doing what I'm doing now because we're not going to be doing anything. If you click that, you'll see the properties for our very first label that we created. In order to go back to the form, just click the form instead. Over here we have the Solution Explorer. As you can see, the name of the solution was what we named it when we first created it, example_C_sharp. But of course you can call it whatever you'd like. So all of our classes and whatnot will be modules and whatnot will be created here. So our first form 1, so as you can see it's still being referred to as form 1 because we never changed the name or anything like that. And the extension is .cs, which does not stand for computer science. It stands for C#. If you're in Visual Basic, the extension will be VB, and if it's C++, it'll be CPP. So, in order to, and as you can see when you click this, you can now see the properties for that as well. Ah, geez, I'm a little gaseous today. Anyway, so when you click this, you don't even need to click it, you can just click this. You can right-click this and, click View Code or Designer. But let's just have this highlighted. And as you can see here, we have the refresh here. And then on the other side of the separator, we have the View Code and View Designer. The View Designer is basically just the what the preview of the application looks like. You click the View Code, and now we see the code for it. And it also opened the tab automatically. So instead of clicking these buttons, we can just go between the tabs. As you can see, we can see all these controls here that we can add to our application. But if you look at the code, you can no longer see them because, of course, well, you can't see controls. You can't add controls to code, so that wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so we're not going to do any programming in this tutorial. We'll be starting that in the next tutorial. This is just a getting started thing, so I'm just going to explain this pretty quickly. This is basically importing a bunch of different libraries that allow us to do the things that we're going to be doing. For example, without the system.windows.forms, we couldn't make a Windows form application to begin with. If we didn't have text, we couldn't make, like strings. If we didn't have a drawing, I think that's the graphics, the data, or the actual numerical information that would be going on. Just a whole bunch of different libraries that are being imported. And you can ignore these. And I don't think we'll have to deal with this, but sometimes in certain situations, we'll have to, create our own, or not create our own, import additional ones. You could also, or import is actually used in Visual Basic. But yeah, there's all these different libraries, and these aren't even visible in Visual Basic, even though they are there, but they're not visible in Visual Basic, because it's a very basic language, and they try to make things very simple. And you'll see these kind of things like when you're working with like a C++, for an example. So anyways, our namespace here is called the solution that we named it, example_C_sharp, and all of our code will go in here, well, at least for our form 1 here. And then this is the actual form 1, as you can see, and all of our code concerning this form 1 that we created here by default will go within here. This one right here is just basically the the ability for this compiler to create this application to begin with. So we won't really be messing with this, but we can create additional code down here that will still have to do with our form 1 here, because it's going between these two curly braces here. So we can still put code here, or we could put it above here as well, but I recommend not. This should be your first piece of information. If you double click, like the label, or let's just double click the form itself, a new little bit of thingamajigger was created, That's called Form 1 load. So as you can imagine, all the code you put in here specifically, you can click the tab to get in there, will only occur as soon as the application loads, which is pretty much as soon as you run the application. And that's pretty much it for that. I don't really want to go deeper into this for now. Okay, so first of all, I would like to show you the lines and errors. So if you have any errors, if you just do whatever, and if I click enter, I guess, okay, there we go. It's underlined in red, kind of like Microsoft Word, and now you have a bunch of errors, and it's telling what file it's in, form1.cs, so you know it's form1.cs, and then the line number, 21. So this whole thing is an error right here. Now by default, I don't know if they show you line numbers, so I'll show you how to do that. Go to Tools, Options, let me close this, go to Text Editor, All Languages, and highlight line numbers, and it'll add the line numbers for whatever language you're dealing with in Visual Studio. If you're using the Express Edition, it should just be C#. And that's it, and all these line numbers should appear for you, so it's nice and easy. If you have any errors, your application cannot run, it cannot be built, it cannot be compiled, it cannot be debugged. So if you have any errors, you'll need to be able to fix them yourselves. Warnings won't stop your application from running, assuming you have no errors, but you should still fix them because, if there's a problem with something, what a warning might be in the Windows 7 operating system might turn out to be an error in another operating system. So it's very important to make sure you take care of the warnings as well. So that's about it for that. And so let's save this. Let's learn how to save. Now, just clicking save will actually just save this one tab that you have highlighted. So I always click the save all, which will save any changes you might have made, which are indicated by the asterisks that appear in all your tabs. This will not always appear, only the first time you're saving. So let's create our solution in that directory that was there. And it was built, or it was saved. Now you can actually build it, so it says build succeeded, or you can just go straight to debug and start debugging it. And basically what that means is it's going to test your program. It'll go through each line to see if there's any mistakes, and if there are no mistakes, it'll run the application at the end so you can see it. I'll just press F5 during this series. So I'll press F5, and there it is. Also, if you made any changes to your code and you try debugging, it'll automatically build it for you as well. So you don't really have to worry about actually hitting the build. Now, when you do build it, in order to see the file, go to your documents and wherever you saved it. So the default should be in your My Documents, Visual Studio 2010, Projects, the solution name. So this is the solution. You can just double click this to start Visual Studio if you'd like. Go to bin, debug, and here it is, the application, this one right here. Double click it, and here you go. Here's your little application with the label 1 there. And that's about it for that. So that's about all I wanted to do for this tutorial. The next one will actually cover the will actually be able to do things. So there's actually one, so basically my name's Adam. I'm really glad you're joining me in this series. And basically all this series is basically an introductory course to C#. And the reason why I do these kind of things, all these different languages, is because universities are getting way too expensive. Going into universities nowadays, as you might have heard from before, I am from California, so the University of Californias are crazy. Even the California State University is just too much. And basically, it's not the smart people that are getting in, it's the rich. And I have a problem with that, I really do. And basically, what I want to be able to do is learn as much as I can at university, even stuff I don't learn at university. All my web development I'm not learning at school. And C# even, I'm learning on my own, because I learned Visual Basic at school. And basically, I want to be able to offer it to you, because computer science is, and any kind of engineering is a very important thing to learn, because you can get a really good paying job with it. And engineering is really not as hard as it sounds, but anyways, I'm running out of time in this video, so enough chit-chat, let's get into programming, right? So let's go into that next video.